We've got playing in the bottom right, playing as blue, playing as Protoss. He's playing for FM Esports. It is Pughy. And in the top left spawn position, we've got his challenger, his opponent. It is the red Zerg player playing for the last resort. It is Remnant.
Now, this is actually really cool to watch because for those of you who don't know, we know Pughy more as a caster and as an observer, of course. He was helping us out at iSeries at the ESET UK Masters. So while we've always known he's a pretty darn good player, we haven't really got to see too much of him playing as of late, and now he gets the chance to hop into the hot seat himself and show off what skills he has had all along that we haven't been able to see. So I'm really excited to see how well he lives up to that.
Yeah, me too. Excited to see how he's going to do, more known as a caster slash observer than he is as a player. Ooh, he's chrono boosting his Nexus there for a second without making anything. That is always, you know, one of those tiny things that you never want to have happening. You know, a chrono boosted Nexus that's not producing something. Always cringe a little bit when you see that as a Protoss player. Like, oh man, I pressed that button like a split second too late.
Dude, there was a huge moment like that in GSL today, where Maru, I forget, I think it was in one of his games against Solkey, he had a whole bunch of his SCVs in one of his bases. He just right-clicked a mineral, and actually right-clicked another SCV, and it was watching like 20 SCVs follow one. It was painful to watch, man. I watched that game too, actually. I get to catch quite a bit of the GSL games because usually I get home pretty early in the afternoon and I can get some GSL matches in there. There were some decent matches today and a few stomps as well. I mean, Flash just looking so strong, destroying everyone. Oh, dude. God mode enabled, man. I mean, that was ridiculous. I am lucky, super lucky, in that if I'm not in a meeting at work, I have multiple screens at my desk, so I tend to try and work and watch GSL, or at least listen to it at the same time if I need both screens. So I try my best to keep up with all the games. But yeah, just little moments like that, and especially when you have all your workers following another one, usually players just glance very, very quickly, like really briefly, at the idle workers, and if they're in the process of following them, because they've just moved from your command center or nexus or hatchery towards the minerals, they're not actually idle workers. They're only idle when they stop. So you could glance at it and still see no idle workers, but actually 20 workers aren't mining. It really sucks when that kind of thing happens.
It does. It is a really annoying thing to have happen, and luckily Maru corrected it in like, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds, somewhere in between.
Dude, he noticed quick.
That's a lot of time. It's still.
I would have just left it there for the whole game. I would have been like, dude, I've got 70 SCVs. What are you going to do? My macro is totally fine. And they're like, you're actually mining with 40, Jaro. And I'm like, what? I would not notice that.
30 of 1 are following something at your third base. Oh, but I never look at my third base.
Yeah. I just assume they're lings and the third is lost. Oh, well. Or if it's literally, it's like, don't lie, I don't have a third base. I DT rushed you. Yeah.
Yeah, like the times that I had a third base on ladder can probably be counted on a single hand. Anyway, we do have a PvZ happening here. Pretty standard build orders so far. We've seen expansion build with a gateway, no forge out of Pughy, so a bit of a greedy build. A build that allows you to potentially put on a lot of pressure because you didn't invest in a forge, you didn't invest in a +1, so that could enable you to hit a pretty early 3-gate or 4-gate timing attack.
And there's a little bit of a supply block here for Pughy, and by a little, I mean, it was a reasonable amount of time on 28 there, but I want to echo your sentiments here, Lillian. I mean, a lot of people go for the gateway, and then they go grab their forge reasonably soon afterwards, so that at least they can start their +1 attack and add on a whole bunch more gateways, or maybe get some units out of their robotics or whatever. And that allows them to coincide whatever early pressure they do, or some sort of timing attack with an upgrade of some description. Pughy's not going to have any of that in this case. He got gateways number 2 and 3 earlier, but he's not actually doing anything with them at this moment. Once Warp Gate finishes, of course, he'll convert them, but this is all time that he could have spent upgrading the +1. So I wonder if this is like some specific build without a forge that's designed for really good early timing, because if it isn't, I feel like in the long run he might lose out a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point you're making there, Jursa. We always see an early forge when a Protoss has a late game plans, and not having a forge this far into the game is definitely indicative of some kind of pressure, but we only have 3 gateways so far. We already have a proxy pylon going up across the map. The Immortals are coming out, but there's not the usual sentries there to accompany them.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. In fact, a little bit gas-starved at the moment. Still only on a single gas is Pughy, but there was no observer. He doesn't have an observer out on the field right now. He is doing nothing but chrono boost Immortals out of that robotics facility, and then he's going for Warp Prism. So he is definitely going for a push here. We see the Warp Prism. This is basically what Protoss players do when we see this Sentry Immortal all-ins, except in this case, significantly less gas coming out of Pughy. He might be able to get a lot of his units out earlier because he hasn't invested in the Forge in +1, so he didn't need so much gas early on. But it remains to be seen how effective this push is going to be.
He only has 3 gateways, so what can he really make in terms of units? If he loses his Immortals, that push is absolutely over. He can't do anything if he loses those Immortals, so they are going to be pivotal to keep alive. There are finally some additional gateways coming up. A 4th and a 5th, I believe, but that's still a pretty low gateway count, and mostly Zealots are going to be coming out. And luckily for Remnant, he's already got his Roach Warren finished up. He has some Roaches out on the field, but only 8 of them so far.
Except this kind of push, I mean, with a lot of Zealots instead of Sentries, looks like it would do really well against a Zerg that maybe skipped the Roach Warren and just has a whole bunch of Lings. But if that's the case, then the Immortals aren't doing an amazing amount of damage, because the Immortals are better against Roaches. So here we go, we have an engagement out in the middle of the map here. The Zealots are going to try and take out the Lings, the Immortals are going to try and take out the Roaches. But this is, I don't know, this is so different from a traditional Sentry Immortal, Lillian. How do you read into this strategy-wise?
I don't think Remnant has really read into this as much. He hasn't scouted as well with his Overlords as you would expect, so he probably saw those Zealots and the Immortals and he was like, oh no, this is not what I expected. I just made a lot of Zerglings, I don't have that many Roaches. And there we see a panic 6 Spine Crawlers going up as the Extractor gets focused down there by Pughy. Maybe not the best target to go for. The 6 Spine Crawlers are about to go up. Does Remnant have enough here? He's trying to buy time with his drones for the Spine Crawlers to finish.
No sentries back at home for Pughy. The robotics facility is going to go down here. And Remnant, wow, even fighting with drones, waiting for the Spine Crawlers to go up. Is this counterattack the correct move, Lillian? Could Remnant have defended this at home?
I don't know. It's going to be pretty close here. There's not going to be a lot of reinforcements coming in for Pughy because he doesn't have a lot of resources. He actually could warp in a lot of Zealots, but he is warping them back at home, so he's going to try to keep his main base alive. He's going to put everything into keeping his main base alive because you cannot hope to win a base trade versus Zerg usually.
And it looks like, I mean, for the reason that Remnant's gone for this counterattack, both sides are basically doing a lot of damage to each other at the moment, so we're not going to have that head-on-head engagement that we were possibly looking for here. A couple of Lings popping out. Actually, all of the Zealots, until that warp-in, were killed off, so the Lings are actually going to target down the Immortals, which is a decent idea since the Immortals don't do any bonus damage, and the Lings are a multi-target, but can he actually get any of them killed? No! Picking them up in the Warp Prism is Pughy, and he's going to continue this assault. Killed off the natural expansion, and now he's going for the main, as even the drones popping in to try and pick off that forward pylon. But with the Warp Prism on the field, doesn't matter so much, and I think the gateways are now unpowered as well.
We might be able to do it here. Has a lot of drones working away, but I don't think the drones are going to be enough. Some Zerglings coming in to reinforce the Immortals, doing so much damage in the back, and they can just be microed into the Warp Prism, and I think that's what we're going to see if it's needed.
That was weird. I would have liked to see Remnant run the drones past, make sure he had at least 300 minerals for another hatchery at his third, and then move across the map with his drones. Just move across the map.
There's no probes out on the field, Jurostar. There's not a single probe out on the field. So the buildings that he has now are all the buildings he will ever have.
50 minerals. He can make a single probe and then a Nexus. He could.
Yeah, he could try to make the probe, but the probe would come out of the Nexus that is under fire by so many Zerglings. The Nexus is going to be the last building standing, and I think Remnant is actually going to win this.
Oh, where's the forward pylon?
There's some pylons. There's some pylons in the main base.
Are they just in the main base, though? Is there anything on top of that? No, it's going to be a GG, and it looks like Remnant is going to win game number 1. I have to say, Lillian, in ridiculous